For Iowa live stream here today on the campus of the University of Iowa. I'm AJ Reister. I'm now joined by a phenomenal cast and crew from the Daily Iowan. Jason Brumman, the publisher and owner of the Daily Iowan, Jamie Martin Trainer, the executive editor for the Daily Iowan, and Joel Keller, the multi-reporter from all different ranges, whether it comes to the paper or for TV. We have three phenomenal characters on stage for us here today. But let's start with you, Jason. The recent acquisition of two local newspapers, what went into the thought process of that, and why did that end up coming around?
Yeah, thanks, AJ. So that was 13 months ago. It's February last year is when we finalized that. So they've been under our ownership for a year. Mm-hmm. And a couple of things went into it. Ultimately, if we didn't go in and acquire those newspapers, there was a real chance that they were going to close and not exist anymore. And so, we thought Mount Vernon and Solon deserved to have a community newspaper and a strong community newspaper. But the other motivating factor for us, quite honestly, is, I'm sure you'll ask Joel here in a little bit, but is to be able to put student journalists into these markets and enhance the coverage that the professionals are doing. So whether that's through internships, through classwork, or through Daily Iowan staff contributing to these papers, really allowed us to provide a different experience than what we were doing at the DI while elevating these community newspapers.
And you talked about the importance of local news, especially here in this Iowa City area. What, in your eyes, is the importance of local news?
I think it's so critical right now. If you look at what's happening statewide here in Iowa and nationally, and just the fast changing environment of federal government, state government, local government, and the role that newspapers play in informing the communities. And I think both the community newspapers, but even the Daily Iowan, the DI acts more like a professional community newspaper than a college newspaper, right? We don't cover just what's happening on campus. We cover city government, we cover the school board, we cover local elections. We are the information source, I feel like, for Iowa City. And between the Daily Iowan and DITV, we cover stories from every platform and every angle.
Getting that true multimedia view of the Iowa City area. Now, you mentioned that a lot of the students actually work for these two new newspapers that you acquired. What are these students doing for those newspapers specifically?
Yeah, so it's kind of all hands on deck from different aspects. So in some cases, it's as simple as these newspapers running a Daily Iowan story that would fit in their market, right? So Solon is in Johnson County, as is Iowa City. The DI, we have the staff to cover Johnson County local government, and Solon does not, right? So Solon, but it's very relevant to their community and their readership. So some cases it's just running a Daily Iowan story. Our DI digital team does the digital production for both of these newspapers. Our DI editors do copy editing for these newspapers. And then interns, Joel was our inaugural intern. He liked it so much, I think. Joel, you can tell me otherwise, but that he continued that this whole school year. We now have 3 interns working in Solon and Mount Vernon. And then the classes, there's a prep sports report class in the journalism school, and then an Iowa community news class this semester that are contributing bylines. You can pick up the Mount Vernon and Solon newspaper and you'll see in any given week 5 or 6, maybe more, bylines of journalism students contributing to those newspapers.
I mean, how cool is it for you as the publisher to see your students that you work with almost on a daily basis? You see them come through these doors all the time. How cool is it for you to see them be able to do the stories for the DI, but also get that outreach for these other communities?
It's real exciting, and it's something I have a lot of pride about. It was not something that I even dreamt as a possibility. The acquisition initiated from the previous owner, I should say, reaching out to us about our interest in it. It was not even something I would have thought about, right? This is the first instance in the country of a student media nonprofit owning and operating community newspapers. And so, I'm a Daily Iowan alum myself. I'm a journalism school alum. I, have bought in and I drink the Kool-Aid in terms of what the experience that we provide. And I think it's fantastic, right? Like, we travel all over the country. We were just in Oklahoma last week for women's basketball, unfortunate ending. We were in Philadelphia for NCAA wrestling. We're going to be in D.C. next month visiting with our senators and representatives. We offer an incredible experience at the Daily Iowan, and now with these community newspapers, it's a different kind of experience, but I think one that is very foundational and critical for journalism.
Absolutely. And let's ask the students about their experiences with the Daily Iowan and these acquisitions with the newspapers. I'll start with you, Jamie. You are the executive editor of the Daily Iowan. What is your role specifically, and how fun has it been for you to step into this role this year?
Yeah, so my role as executive editor of the Daily Iowan is to help with the sort of content side of things, whether that be on our weekly print publication or on the digital online side of things. Deciding what stories run, helping go through the editing process, and then managing our different section editors. The Daily Iowan covers a wide breadth of things, as Jason was saying, from local government to the arts in Iowa City to national politics and how that seeps down and impacts us at the state level. So there's a lot of moving parts, and I help sort of connect those pieces. And just in terms of the learning experience, being executive editor of the Daily Iowan has been absolutely invaluable. I know that there are skills that I've had to learn to be flexible and learn to grow with that I'll take on for my professional career or for the rest of my life, I imagine. So yeah, truly just an experience that you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else.
Especially as a student, stepping up
Yes.
into a role like that, it's not easy.
No, absolutely not. And I think that the best part about the Daily Iowan is that we're considered a learning lab, and so people can come in without an ounce of knowledge about anything journalism related. And the environment that we like to cultivate here lets people grow throughout the institution and work their way up as they continue, working through the different roles and parts. So that's just been fantastic, and one of my favorite parts as a leader here is to see people grow and improve as they spend time here with our different staff members.
And how has your role grown with the acquisition of the two local newspapers? How has it grown for you as an executive editor?
Yeah, I think that communication in the journalism industry as a whole is probably one of the most important skill sets that I've learned, and the acquisition has only helped that. I've been able to, work with Chris and Nathan, who are the editors of the two papers, just in terms of chatting about what stories we have that would definitely be applicable to their readership, or what copy editing timelines are going to look like, whether or not we've published stuff on their digital side of things. So just helping with that communication in a very professional capacity. And again, to echo what Jason was saying earlier, the Daily Iowan doesn't necessarily operate like your average college newsroom. We are serving Iowa City, and these other communities. And so this is, again, just taking that to the next level in terms of professionalism and those skills that will continue growing into myself and all of my peers' careers.
And you've also become a great journalist yourself through these years at the Daily Iowan. What's been some of your favorite works of your own that you've really liked working through?
Great question. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to write a profile on the Iowa women's basketball head coach, Jan Jensen, who stepped into that position this year. I was able to get a one-on-one interview with her thanks to the sort of relationship that we've cultivated with Iowa's athletics department. So that was an honor. And then she invited me to her home. I got to meet her family. I went to her hometown. And it's in-depth reporting like that the Daily Iowan is committed to, that I think is really representative of our mission and what we're trying to do. So being able to report that myself was a really fantastic experience.
Especially someone at the national level that gets a lot of,
Yes.
The Iowa women's basketball team gets a lot of media coverage, so to be able to get that behind the scenes look.
Mm-hmm.
Not even a lot of national people get that look, so that's pretty fun.
Absolutely.
Now, Joel, you do both sides. You do the print, you do the TV side. What has been your role as a reporter that you've really enjoyed about being a part of the DI and the two new acquired newspapers?
Yeah, really just no day is the same. Depending on the day, I'll come in and do TV or print, and the stories are completely different. With the TV, with the DI, mainly covering University of Iowa, especially athletics, and then with the two papers, I'm going more small town, covering local news, community news, and what's going on in those two communities. So it's a lot of fun to change it up all the time.
How are you able to balance all that? 'Cause I know you do more than just reporting too. You like to do broadcasting with Big Ten Plus, among as many other things. But how are you able to balance all that stuff as a student to continue to learn and grow as a reporter?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of times it's very hard to balance, but just you got to anticipate what's coming up. And if I know I have a busy week with broadcast stuff, then I'll take less stories or move the story. Say I can't do a story by this week, but I can work on it and have it done by the following week. So that helps. Just keeping a good schedule really is all that matters. But yeah, it can get a little overwhelming at times.
What has been one of your favorite stories that you've been able to cover, whether it is with the DI or with Mount Vernon or Solon? What's been your favorite story to cover?
Yeah, I think my favorite story, I did both for DITV and the Vernon-Lisbon Sun, and it was on this basketball player who went to Cornell College and ended up playing pro ball at Taiwan, but before he came to Iowa, he was born in Brunei, went up to the UK for a little bit, and he'd been in 7 different countries, so I'm really paraphrasing there, but he's done a lot. He had a long journey and somehow ended up in Cornell College in Mount Vernon, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy connection how it all comes back together. And I watched that story and it was very well put together. So very good job with that.
Thank you.
But I'll ask you a couple more questions here as we have some time. With this acquisition of Mount Vernon and Solon, you've also been able to go through and work with the sports reporting class here run by Wayne Drees. What was that? How has that been for you working also on the print side, but also in the classroom here at Iowa?
Yeah, it's been fun because I have that experience over the summer. I've been able to say hey, like this is where you talk to the coach, to some people who are covering a game for the first time. So that was really good. But it's been fun to see how other students cover the same game, the same team that I'm covering, and then take parts that I like and add it to my stories and change up my writing style a little bit as I continue to adjust my voice when I'm writing.
Absolutely. We'll get back to Jason. I'm not sure how much more time we have left with these, so I'm going to keep running with questions. Perfect. I've been told we have plenty of time.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So, Jason, when you look at the overall students and you oversee the print side, we also see the TV side. Over the last few years, what's been some of the growth that you've seen as these new waves of students come in? As a publisher, how have you seen this place grow the last few years?
Yeah, so I'm finishing up my 8th year as publisher here, and again, I've got history before that as a student several years ago, but I would say, particularly in the last 3 to 4 years, the growth that we've had on digital platforms and TV, I think, is really astounding, right? So, from a digital standpoint, we're breaking news, we're putting immediate news up on the website. But the longer form projects and being able to show a story that has multimedia elements and graphics and video and slideshow and data and have that in one clean presentation that is more of an experience for a digital news consumer, I think that is really exciting. And I look at, we're sitting in the DITV studio, and I look at what we've done with TV in the last few years and have really elevated that to a new level in terms of production values and graphics and and again, I think with our staffing, whether it's last year's Final Four coverage, where we have a quad box and 4 reporters in 4 different locations covering women's basketball championship game or an election night or a caucus night, and we have more reporters deployed across the state of Iowa than any other news organization in the state, and that is pretty neat.
Well, let's talk about that women's basketball team. Last year, you guys put out that book that sold a lot of copies, and we're still pushing it out to this day. What was that process like for you as a publisher? And I'll ask you guys about what it was like being able to be a part of that and report on that team a little bit. But what was it like as a publisher coming up with that original idea to even come up with a book to cover this historic team?
Yes, so Danny Wilcox-Frazier, our photo coach and documentary workshop director, came up with the idea for the book, and something we pitched to athletics, and somewhat to a surprise to us, they said yes and agreed to give us this incredible access, right? So we had photographers essentially embedded with the team in the locker room and traveling with the team, right? The hours before the Final Four, have a photographer in Caitlin Clark's hotel room as she's kind of mentally getting ready for that game. Just an incredible experience, and we traveled all over with the team and certainly covered it from a DI and DITV standpoint. So it's one of those seasons where we thought could be special. It's hard to predict all this team's going to go to a national championship, right?
Yeah.
Those are tough to pick. I don't know how your bracket's doing. Mine's not doing great.
Oh no, mine have been buses since the first few games.
Yeah. So, but we had more of a sense of this moment, right? And that's more than a moment. Obviously, it was the title of the book, but I think incredible experience for students, and really happy to capture this historic season for Iowa.
What was it like covering it from your standpoint? You were last year, you're still as a reporter. What was it in your shoes? What was it like to be a part of that?
Yeah, so I was able to work on the digital team for the past couple of years at the Daily Iowan as Caitlin Clark sort of came into this national spotlight role, and seeing the difference that the Daily Iowan got to experience from a digital perspective, just regarding like reach and how many people were actually engaging with our content, was fantastic. Because, when you're working in a community with a smaller readership, which like Iowa City's a bigger area, I would say, but not compared to those big cities. But when we have these national headlines, people from all over the country are looking at the Daily Iowan, are looking at these Iowa publications because we're trusted to cover this better than maybe some of the national publications, just because we have this proximity and we've been covering it so thoroughly for the past decades upon decades. So being able to see all these eyes on our publication and help cultivate our coverage and make sure that we're doing the best to match this moment and meet this moment where it's at in terms of attention and energy that we're giving to the coverage was really neat, and is something that I don't think a lot of newsrooms, period, in Iowa or college newsrooms or ever get to experience, just because we're perfectly situated to cover this massive, massive moment within college athletics, and what better publication to cover that than the University of Iowa's student-run newspaper.
I could not agree more.
Yep.
But from a digital standpoint, you're also trying to push out a lot of that information pretty quickly.
Yes.
And especially when her record was coming around,
Yeah.
I remember there were those days where we had those meetings like, what is the game plan for when she breaks these scoring records? What was that like for you as a digital person trying to get that stuff out as quickly as possible? What was the game plan?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite experiences actually of working in digital last year, is both understanding how we want to cover it and what the best medium to cover it as. And as journalism sort of becomes increasingly digital, always have a soft spot in my heart for print. But obviously digital is the place where a lot of people are getting their news. And that means that we can be a little more creative on how we're displaying information. And so we talked a lot about that lead up, how we wanted to talk about Caitlin Clark breaking the record. And so we had some, moving infographics that we helped code and design and put on the website that people could engage with, which ended up being pretty popular and then replicated by other national publications after we had published it. So that was neat to be a part of. Just as behind the scenes conversations in terms of both like what stories do we want to come out, but also what other multimedia elements can we have? What do we have that we can bring to the table that other publications aren't doing yet that they might want to do after the fact?
I think that's really great experience too, right?
Yeah.
Having different student leaders in a meeting and planning coverage of like, okay, photo and TV and digital and print, and how we're going to cover this, whether it's a record-breaking game or a big event like a Final Four.
Yep, and I've been able to sort of take those skill sets and use them to get internships and hopefully jobs post-grad. So.
We all have our fingers crossed for that one.
Right.
Now, Joel, when all of that was happening, it was kind of your first semester with the Daily Iowan and getting involved here at the studio. What was that like for you stepping into that role as a reporter when all of this was going on?
Yeah, it was really cool to see just like how, I guess, professional everything was around here. It was like, oh, like this is just a college newsroom, and it's like, it's actually not. It's very professional, and we cover the big stories like that. I would have never thought going into this like, oh yeah, we'll be able to send so many people to all these events and stuff, like to the Final Four. We're sending a full team and stuff like that, and it's really cool that coming in that I would know like, oh, once I get some stories under my belt, I'll start getting these opportunities, and it really makes you want to work harder so that you can earn those opportunities.
And being able to travel and do all these things, it all comes back to having some help too. So how are some ways that people can donate and help out so that students can continue to get these experiences?
For me, it's I think you hit the nail on the head there, the travel, but it's the things that we do that other college newspapers do not do, right? So we travel more than any college newspaper in the country. We spent $50-some thousand last year on travel. A lot of it is sports, right? We go to away football games, bowl games, we go to tournaments, Big Ten and national. DC, this year for the election, we had reporters in Nevada, in Georgia, and Wisconsin to cover the swing state perspective. So that's a huge, certainly a perk of, I think, working at the DI, but it is a luxury item, right, for us, something that we get to do that others maybe don't have the capability to do. So for me, it's travel, it's equipment, making sure we've got the latest and greatest, so our student journalists are ready for their first job and know how to use equipment that is out in the field professionally. And then I would also say, scholarship opportunities, right? So both the School of Journalism gives out a lot of scholarship money every year, which I know is a huge help. And at the Daily Iowan, we have scholarships that we recruit high school seniors for, and then we have award-based scholarships for great performance in the newsroom.
Now, Jamie and Joel, I know you both have received some scholarships in the past. We'll start with you, Jamie. What were some of the scholarships that you received, and how has that helped you continue your career here at the DI?
Yeah, so I'm a first-generation college student, actually, who's paying for college herself. So the scholarships are definitely invaluable. I know that the Lawrence Farrell Scholarship is one big one that's awarded to students from the state of Iowa. I'm from Cedar Rapids, so a short 30, 45-minute drive from Iowa City. So that was an absolute honor to receive. And then I've also received a few of the merit-based scholarships that Jason had mentioned, just for dedicating a lot of time and energy to the Daily Iowan, which has helped support, covering tuition, covering rent, covering these important expenditures that allow me to focus a lot of time and energy and attention to the Daily Iowan and my academics here at Iowa.
Yes, rent is a big one.
Yes, that it is.
Hey, Joel, what about you? What were some of the scholarships that you received?
Yes, I actually didn't receive any scholarships, but the internship was a big part of how I've been able to continue to come to college, especially this final year, and pay for rent, groceries, and tuition and all that.
Absolutely. It's all putting towards some of those small things just to get us by, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
More on the stories and stuff.
Exactly. Let's finish up things with talking about what's been going on this year. What have been some of the big goals, especially this last semester? There is no, national record-breaking women's basketball team this year. So what have been some of the big stories that you guys have been able to cover this year?
I'll say a lot of the political mechanisms. Again, Jason had talked about this a bit earlier, but there's been a lot happening both at the state and federal level. And with all of these higher ed, Department of Ed changes, that's going to trickle down and deeply impact the state of Iowa. And so being able to sort of navigate what this coverage looks like and continue furthering it and reporting on what for a lot of people is just a giant question mark has truly been an honor, because, we're students, we're learning, we're doing our best to cover, but we're also really helping serve our community, and the feedback that we've gotten has been very, very positive in that regard.
Absolutely. Joel, what are you working on?
I got a lot on my list right now. But, currently I've got a story on this Cornell girls wrestling coach. That's a really cool story about his life and his journey. And then I'm hoping to get some stories on some athletes here at Iowa, or former athletes at Iowa, who are looking to make their pro debut in the MLB. So we'll see if we can get those going. But on top of that, just a lot of Solon community news, and I'm starting to lean more into feature stories, especially with more interns on who can devote more time to the local news as it happens weekly. So going into more features is going to be really fun the rest of the semester.
That Cornell women's wrestling coach story sounds pretty interesting. I wonder who gave you that idea.
It might have been you. I don't know.
Who knows? But we thank you guys for coming up here today on One Day for Iowa. It really means a lot. Thank you for sharing your stories. And be sure to stay tuned here at the live stream. We have so many more interviews coming up and a whole lot of fun for you guys. Keep scanning the QR code. It helps us all out so that we can continue to do what we love. Stay tuned for more right after this.